everything here is impossible, but it's also real.
Did I hear somebody say real? Oh, okay. So the From Season 4 trailer has finally dropped, and it renders a bunch of new mysteries. The premiere is set for April 19th, and there are a lot of things that have happened since the Season 3 finale. I mean, we got driverless taxis, Walmart drone delivery is now a thing. Your earbuds can function as a hearing aid, but you can also buy steaks from Temu. But we're not here to talk about any of that. I mean, Victor didn't even know that the internet existed. But I'm gonna keep it a beanbag. 2025 was definitely a big year for horror movies and TV shows, and it set the stage for 2026 to be even bigger. And with From ramping up in April, that's a good start. Welcome to Real Enigmas and Theories. We're about to get into this trailer, teaser, and the extra clips that they gave us. So if you're not caught up and ready for From Season 4, there will be spoilers, just so you know. So without further ado, let's cook. Now there's something that I noticed right off rip, and I'm sure all of you caught it too. And that's the fact that the crows are actually showing up in town. We've only seen the crows in the show on 2 other places. Of course at the tree in the road, but we also saw the rats eating the crow in the tunnels with Victor and Tabby. And I always thought that was strange that we never saw them in town, because the show's opening credits implies that the crows do come in town. I know y'all remember that quick shot of the crow flying by the tattered American flag. And for me, that shot wasn't just the tattered flag giving us a clue that the show has something to do with America's dark past. The crow flying behind it was an implication that the crows do enter the town. And now that we're seeing the crows showing up in town at that funeral, it confirms the notion that was right there in front of our face in the opening credits the whole time. And that's definitely something to look at, being that it's the first thing that they reveal is the crows are in town. And even though the trailer had already started, they add this graphic in announcing the From trailer starts now, and it plays a clip of Boyd. 2 hands come up out of the ground and grab him, and then we get yet another graphic saying that the wait is over, and the very clip they use is none other than that clip with the flag and the crow. They also drop another shot of the crows with the MGM graphic, and it's also in the promo shot for the teaser. So I think we'll definitely be getting more about the crows in this season for sure. I've spoken about the crows and some deeper meanings about the crows as well in previous videos in relation to Jim. And the overall information that I hope we learn is if they are good or bad. The rats eating the crows in the tunnel with the slow walkers was definitely a clue, and hopefully we'll get more about it. But you can check out my esoteric breakdown about the crows and Jim right here. And by the way, I think that the hands that are coming out of there is Abby. I don't think it's real. It may be a dream or vision like the ballerina. Moving right along, we get a bunch of shots of things from the new season and past events that we've already seen, and we'll talk about that later. We see what looks to be another entrance to the tunnels underground that we haven't seen before. And we see the head of Brick, who was under the house with Jim and Tom. Tony Teflon did a video addressing the identity of this figure, and I think he's right. I don't think he's under the town though, but I do think they left his body under the rubble in that house, and someone has gone down there to probably inspect the hole under the house, and they see him down there. I think someone was bound to go check on that hole under the house. That whole thing with the house falling on Brick is part of my Wizard of Oz symbolism, and I'll touch a little bit on that later. But Brick's eyes look the same as Julie, Mari, and Randall's eyes, also the guy that was stuck under the boulder. And right after that, we get the shot of Mari in the dungeon from season 2, so I'm wondering why we get that shot right after. Then we get some season 3 shots of the guy drinking from the skull, and then a shot of the St. Benedict cross and what I think is the inside of Sophia's car hitting the post office. And I guarantee she gets that from the car for sure. And this is an indication that she's Catholic like Katri was. Then we get some shots of the Boyd and Abby scene with the people running away from Abby. which takes us right into a shot of the Freyboggards at the cabin, right before we see the Cabbage Patch dolls, and I will definitely be talking about those later. But I predicted them last season, and when I saw them, you know I was looking like this right here. We get some shots of Victor's drawings and then some shots of the Cabbage Patch dolls in motion before seeing Boyd wake up in the post office. And then before switching tones a bit, we get another shot of crows with the MGM Plus graphic. We get a shot of Sophia and her father arriving at the tree. We don't see the crows in this shot, but I'm sure they probably will show up. But I'm gonna keep it a beanbag with you though. This tree right here isn't as big as the other trees we've seen. Knowing what I know now, I would have tried to move that shit right up out the way. Whatever entity picks the trees to block the road gave Sophia and her father a shot at it. We see Boyd in Ellis and Fatima's room with Donna and Christy being told that the people are asking what he saw down there. So it makes me wonder if he told anybody about Smiles Davis yet. I mean, it wouldn't even matter since they never told anybody that they killed him in the first place. We also see Boyd and Elgin talking about the truth getting out. And it makes me wonder, did they even speak about Elgin taking Fatima? I mean, we know that it was a handful of people that knew that Elgin was being tortured, including Acosta, and she doesn't look too cool with it. We get a shot of Jade in the tunnels again, and a little boy that actually looks like he could be a younger version of Jade. And if I'm not mistaken, that's Viggo Hanvelt, who played Avery in the Institute. We also get some shots of Jade being confronted by the slow walkers and them grabbing it, getting a hold of him, and he's screaming and whatnot. Hopefully that's a dream too, but strange enough, it doesn't look like it. So Jade wants to talk to Tabitha, and I think we might see the body of Jim in the barn. And we get a shot of Julie asking why isn't he back yet, and Tabitha crying at the barn door with Boyd. So yeah, I think that that's probably what she would be snapping out about, is finding Jim's body in the barn. And then we see a couple of goats banging out breakfast like they at the IHOP inside the barn. And painted on the walls, we see knowledge comes at a cost. Those famous words said to Jim by the man in yellow just before he deleted him. And Jim was the only one who knew about Jade and Tabitha's past lives. And from the trailer, it seems that they kept it that way. We get some shots of Victor and Henry digging up something, and it looks like more artwork. A drawing of the man in yellow from what it looks like, and I think that Victor may be remembering some things or having some false memories. You know, the kind of false memories where you tell Tabitha that your mom told you that the kids were in the tower, but then Tabitha gets out and comes back, and you tell her that you overheard the puppet telling Chris, but it was actually the boy in white. But then Henry told Tabitha that Miranda already knew about the kids in the tower. Anyway, it looks like Julie is story walking again, and it looks like she went back to the time where the slow walkers stopped in the woods at the RV. So that kind of makes me think that it was Julie banging on the RV that night when Randall tied up Donna like it was the Salem witch trials. And to them, it sounded like the noise was coming from below the RV, but it was Julie inside stomping. Check out this shot of her story walking. It appears that she goes back to the point in time when Jim, Donna, Randall, and Boyd were besieged in the RV. We see that bit of ghost action that's happening in the kitchen as well, with the stuff flying across the room and the cabinets opening and closing. And that makes me think that it was her as well. I think that's Julie story walking. And it makes sense because when the rope was thrown down to Boyd, we didn't hear any conversation between Martin and Julie. However, when we learned that Julie was the one who threw the rope, we definitely know that there was a conversation with them two, and Boyd couldn't hear anything. Martin and Julie do share one thing in common that we know for sure, and that's being chained to the wall in that dungeon. That could be why Martin hears her, but Boyd doesn't. Maybe Julie can do a whole lot more with that story walking ability than we expected. And I gotta say, after laying a whole egg up out here, this place definitely isn't done with Fatima yet. She's still bugging out after having Elgin as her doula and the kimono wraith as her midwife, eating colony house kimchi and laying an egg underground on a trap house mattress. I mean, now she's out here playing in the mud and vandalizing cars. I think she just needs to go get some of that Fatima's gas pack and sit down somewhere. Then we get a shot of Boyd running down that shortcut into town from Colony House, and there's a lot of us have been theorizing about what this bloody sack hanging from the motel sign is. We also see Julie looking up at that sign from the porch. I mean, it could be some of them Temu steaks, but I think it might be chopped up dog meat. I was on a live stream over at Teflon TV with Tony, Phil, and Taryn shared a picture with us that showed the sack on the ground by Jade and Tabitha. And when you zoom in on the contents of the sack, you can see what looks like a dog, just like the ones that Boyd saw and that Victor saw, Jim saw, that the ones that were following the boy in white in Victor's vision. And I think this shot is of after they get the sack down from that sign. And if that is a dog in the sack, I wonder if it makes Tabitha remember seeing them dogs in the woods with Jim, and she sparks up a conversation about it. I mean, we know that Boyd's down there and he saw the dogs, and those dogs have to be important because think about the way that Victor acted when he heard the dogs barking. It echoed and rang in his head, but Ethan couldn't even hear the dogs. And Victor had forgotten about those dogs until that time he was in the woods and he fired his gun with Jim and them out there. That's what made him run back to his room, and that's when they gave us the flashback of Victor seeing the boy in white after the massacre. And I'm thinking if the sack contains the remains of dogs, then it's most likely what's in the pool as well. Probably more dogs or the other dogs, because it was two of them. It's either that or Dale done broke out the wall and he down there popping locking. Now, there was something else mentioned on that live stream, was that the man in yellow shapeshifting. And it appears that he's gone down into the tunnels and gotten that suitcase that we saw Tabitha open while she was down there with Victor. And Tony had a very good theory that the man in yellow could be turning into Acosta or Sophia. He broke it down, and judging by the hair that you could see in the back of the neck and the hair that Tabitha was examining, it's a possibility that it could be a female with blonde hair for sure. I think it's a great theory. And as I said, you could see the blonde hair coming down his neck as he transforms. Now, I do believe he is transforming into a woman, but I don't think it's Acosta or Sophia. But I do think it's a woman just off the strength of the contents of that suitcase. However, when the character Sophia was announced, they also said that there would be a colonial woman joining the cast, and I think that's who it is. I could be wrong, but we'll see. One thing's for sure is that From will be dropping some heavy symbolism this season. Season 1, episode 6 was entitled Book 74, and 74 shows up on the radio in season 2 and in Tabitha's hospital room. Tilly with her 4 children and 7 grandchildren, Boyd Stevens and Jade Herrera both have 4 and 7 letters in their first and last names, and that makes 11 letters. Donna Raines, Jim Matthews, Abby Stevens, and Tien Chen Lu all have 11 letters in their name. Even John Griffin said that the show was inspired by 9/11. But I do have to say that in season 3, they seem to have abandoned the whole 4s and 7s symbolism, but they picked it up back again for this season by dropping the season 4 teaser 74 days before the premiere. And during seasons 1 and 2 in 2022 and 2023, From had some deep connections to actual events that ended up taking place in 2024. I'm not going to go into detail about this again. I've talked about it several times on my channel, and you could check out one of the videos right here. I'll definitely link it at the end of this one. But I definitely think that From will be dropping some more insight for events of 2027 in the same fashion as its first 3 seasons, especially being that it's the year of the GOAT, 2027, and that equals 47, and we're approaching the midpoint of the 47th presidency. They also dropped another few clips for another trailer on April 7th, which is another 4 and 7. So I've been talking about this 4 and 7 symbolism for a long time now, and to see them actually incorporating it into the releases of the trailers as opposed to the premiere dates is exciting. I know that they're going to bring the 4s and 7s back. I'm definitely going to be ready for it. Now, I know that there are some who doubt that a show like this would have that level of symbolism, but modern media is way more than just entertainment. I mean, you even have symbolism on your dollar bills, the street designs, and the $1 trillion entertainment industry, and that all falls under the same architecture. I just convey the patterns I noticed for those who want a deeper meaning beyond the surface. I remember when people were laughing at my thoughts about the egg symbolism for most of season 3 until Fatima laid that egg in the finale. And some were even still in denial until I played that video of Bacta and Fatima talking about the egg. Yes, after the finale, the ladies who play Fatima and Bacta went live on Instagram and talked about how she laid the egg. Even when I talked about Jim being the widow's son, that symbolism actually predicted the death of Jim, because the widow's son is Hiram Abiff and he dies and is resurrected. And we see that Jim is still billed as a main character for season 4. So we'll see what that's all about too. And that takes me right into another prediction that I made last season, and that's the Cabbage Patch Freyboggards. I've talked about the Cabbage Patch Kids in several videos about different shows, and now we see them showing up in the season 4 trailer, and I can't wait to see what that's about. I think the Freyboggards will come for Ethan, and they'll take him from the settlement. And we see this shot of Julie holding the Grand Gulagog book. And I spoke about this during season 2 about 3 years ago, and it's also connected to the dogs. The Grand Gulagog is a reference to the Gollywog dolls of the Jim Crow time period. And you can check out my videos on that right here. The Oddfellows symbolism, along with the Wizard of Oz notes, and even the springtime high holy days are all showing up in this trailer. Boyd with that gold ring with the figure 8 inside. And I believe that this is an esoteric nod to the Analema and the spring or New Year, tying this directly to Lent, Mardi Gras, Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, Easter or Ishtar, the Passover, and the Eucharist. Now, I've talked about the Eucharist symbolism from season 3 when we saw Elgin giving Fatima blood to drink. And when Fatima was getting a checkup at the clinic, they were giving her water to drink. And she broke both of those glasses or vessels that she used to drink from. She broke the glass that she was drinking the blood from, what Elgin gave her. And when Marielle and Christy gave her a glass of water, she broke those as well. And that has to do with the Eucharist and the resurrection. Even when Jesus was poked in his side, what came out of his kidneys were blood and water. But I'm sure we can talk about that as the season progresses. Last season, we had winter, and we can see in the trailer that everything looks like springtime. And if you come outside every day at the exact same time and take a picture of the sun, you'll notice that it leaves a figure 8 signature in the sky known as the Analema. Now, here's another 47. From the top to the bottom of the figure 8 shape, it's about 47 degrees, with the long lobe being twice as long as the shorter lobe. Not only is the height of the Analema about 47 degrees, but it's the same height that was observed to mark the constellations which make up the Alpha Zodiac framework. So you have the Analema about 47 degrees, the solar reversals of the zodiac signs which make up the paired mirrored symbols of the Phoenician alphabet. And those symbols divided create the Phoenician alphabet, which later became the Greek and then later the alphabet that we use today, the Latin alphabet. I mean, and when you think about it, Boyd is literally holding a ring with the figure 8 inside. And this is the same ring of constellations that the sun goes around in that path. Even when you unwind the figure 8, you mirror the perspectives of each sign and the figure 8 becomes a circle or a ring. So the Phoenician alphabet was arranged in a circle, just like the Atbash cipher. And once the letters were arranged in a circle, if you tilt them at a 90-degree angle and fuse them together by tools, you get the constellations. Now, the Atbash cipher is another circular decoding tool that's in Hebrew letters. Now, I have broken down my interpretation of the name choice for our new character, Sophia, and how it ties to the Baphomet. And you could check that out in my season 4 teaser breakdown. But simply put, Sophia converts to the word Baphomet, and Sophia is also the Greek word for wisdom. In Hebrew, the word for wisdom is chokmah, and chokmah in Hebrew gets its roots from the Phoenician word for wisdom, which is hakmat. Greeks are also who tied the owl into the embodiment of wisdom, which is the word for Sophia, and the owl has been associated with Athena, the goddess of wisdom. And something that I noticed in the teaser was the separation of the word owl in the barn where knowledge comes at a cost was painted on the wall. The word owl is separated right in between the wall beams. The owl symbolizing wisdom, and now we get this new character, Sophia, which her name literally means wisdom in Greek. And knowledge does come at a cost. You have studying, observing, being told, and our travelers do have some knowledge, but they don't display any of the wisdom to come together with that knowledge and notice the patterns. I mean, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, and you have knowledge is having the symbols, but wisdom is knowing what the symbols are doing or knowing how to use the symbols. For instance, Boyd is who found the talismans, and that came with the knowledge of keeping out the slow walkers. That knowledge came at a cost of his family with the loss of his wife. However, when Boyd shared that knowledge of the talismans, it became a game changer. Even when he had it out there at the RV when the Matthews crashed, he applied wisdom to that knowledge and used them in the RV and again in the tent with Sarah. So that's like having knowledge that the talismans can actually keep the monsters out. However, having wisdom was using them in different ways and trying to learn things. You had Jim and Jade applying their knowledge with wisdom when they made the radio tower. And this place definitely pushed back when these things were done, but more knowledge was gained each time. And that's how wisdom is gained, through experience, trial, suffering, and consequences. Now, something that I actually have to touch on is the fact of Jade and Tabitha being reincarnated. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I wasn't too pleased with it myself, but I made a few videos about 3 years ago about the Kramanaka. I revealed the connection between Jade and Tien Chen as the Lonely Dragon and the Kramanaka. I also revealed Tabitha as the Kramanaka and Victor as her Lonely Dragon. This came from the revelation of Tabitha straight up saying that there would be 2 Kramanakas in the cave. And I broke this down in season 2. Tabitha was looking at the bracelet from the diner and she called it a piece of Lonely Dragon's treasure. And that put the cement on the theory of there being 2 Kramanakas. And the 2 people that I spotted as the Kramanakas, Jade and Tabitha, ended up being reincarnated lovers. Another small detail that shows up in the trailer is the Rendezvous Company. That calendar shows up in Donna's room, and there are only 3 places where it shows up on the show. In Donna's room, the trailer attached to Boyd's SUV when the Stevens pull into town, and on the outside when Tabitha is sitting at the computer with Henry. Henry's trying to confirm Tabitha's story about the missing people stuck in Frumlin. And while he's looking at the missing article for the Matthews family, you can see the advertisement for the company right there once again. Now, here's what's dope. When you go to that website, it reveals a secret image drawn in crayon with Victor's address on it. And that same website also bears the same numbers to the towers in Tabby's vision, and it's hidden in the coding of the website. I believe this company to be a part or whole covert organization that has knowledge of Frumlin, possibly a religious organization with ties to the government and military connections. Boyd and Abby were both in the service, and Boyd's Brian Kelly situation is directly tied to the event of Brian Kelly's situation in Frumlin. Kelly was pinned to the tree so that Boyd would make the connection about Corporal Brian Kelly. I mean, why did they leave her alive and pin her to a tree? The only thing that we actually got out of that was Brian and Kelly's names, which was then conveyed to Boyd, and Boyd ends up yanking this thing right out of this woman's head. And I'm wondering, why would he do that instead of not just popping her in the head once and ending it? Why did he do it in such a painful manner? I mean, Kelly wasn't even in pain, and she was able to talk with that rod stuck in her head up until the point where Boyd approaches the tree. Then she starts hearing voices and having pains as he was getting closer. And I just thought it was crazy as I don't know what that he just yanked it out of her head instead of like actually just popping her once and then, putting her out of her misery. But anyway, I'm thinking the organization may be partly religious due to all the Catholic priests involved. I mean, you got Father Kotri, who speaks of Book 74. You have the priest that actually guides Tabitha to Victor's house by asking what's in her lunchbox. And that pretty much tipped her to the address. And now we got the father of Sophia, who's actually a Catholic priest as well. Either this organization is some sort of cult with knowledge about Frumlin and may have alliance to the entities there, or it's a part of some government experiment where they are tracking and seeing what's going on in this so-called pocket dimension. The priest that Tabitha spoke with definitely knew something. He knew that Tabitha's child that fell off the changing table was a boy. And when he asked her about the lunchbox, she told him that a man fixed the snacks for her before she left a place where monsters come out at night and you can't leave. And his first question wasn't about the place. His first question wasn't about the monsters. His first question was about the snacks that this man made for her, which prompted her to open up the lunchbox and find Victor's address. That leaves her to Henry, who said that his wife started hearing voices of children wanting to be freed from the tower before she disappeared. And then he stated that he had only told that to one person, which was the investigating detective who died 20 years ago. Perhaps that detective got close to the truth about this organization and he was silenced. And I told you before that Henry's story doesn't add up. And I said this in previous videos. You could check it out. But I think Henry is a part of that organization, or he's one of their targets. So there's a lot of hidden clues hidden in both the teaser and the trailer and those extra clips that we got. It's so much to talk about, but I think I'll bring this video to an end. I want to thank all of you out there who subscribe to the channel. We just made it to 50,000 subs and we're on the road to 100,000. And if you like this video, go ahead and do all that dope YouTube stuff. And if you're not subbed yet, hopefully this will be the video that makes you do it. Don't forget to hype this video and share this to somebody who watches the show. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you. And please take the time to check out this video right here where I break down the esoteric symbolism of the 4s and the 7s in this show and how it connects to a real life event on July 13th, 2024. Anyway, that's all for the video. I'll catch you in the next one.